Welcome back to the Crooked Smile podcast brought to you by Macromedia. Today we have on Fletch once again, but it's for a different topic.
Yeah, we really dig deep in today with Fletcher's expertise on mental health, into the links between mental health and physical health.
If physical health is the solution to mental health.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Could be a bold statement.
Yeah, and it's quite an informative episode.
We talk about the Rottnest swim being cancelled.
We do talk about the Rottnest swim being cancelled and our experience of the Rottnest swim. And yeah, I'm really excited to get into this conversation.
Let's get into it. Fletch, thanks for being back with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, Fletch. Thanks for, you literally got in the elevator and we were like, no. Opened the elevator, grabbed you back.
Yeah.
Plopped you back in the chair, ready for more.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Cam will do the Rottnest swim.
Did.
Yeah. Grim.
Did the Rottnest
Didn't
swim.
do a Rottnest swim.
Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be back.
Second part of this two-part series, I'd say.
Yeah. So physical exercise and its relationship with mental health is today's deep dive.
They're inextricably linked.
There's
I'd
a lot
say.
of stuff coming out lately about it and the relationship with it and the benefits on your mental health from exercise. And we've brought in Fletch again, the expert on neuroscience, to talk about some of the neuroscience behind it.
So with Fletcher's expertise on mental health and our expertise on physical health, I think we can create a great mind versus body, combination.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Is your Sunday thought linked into that?
Sort of. Talking about mental, warfare, being at war with yourself, not just in a physical sense, but in a mental sense. And you, recently had to go through quite a lot last Saturday.
Was not fun.
It's kind of mental warfare. But my Sunday thought is, if you half complete something, is it truly complete?
Okay, so the context
What do you
is
think about that?
The Rottnest swim got cancelled, I think probably a week and a half ago from when we're recording this, and
A week ago.
I was at about 10.5 kilometres in when they cancelled it. So just over halfway, and everyone got put out of the water. Pretty sad because the conditions were...
The boats were all like parallel with the shore. It was pretty crazy.
Fletch was there. Fletch was on the
I caught
island.
the ferry over at 7:30 and I was like, holy moly, this is going to be a rough one.
Yeah.
So I left it 2 hours after on the ferry home.
You probably would have been on the ferry past us while I was swimming.
Well, I saw your mum and Rose get off the ferry, so they were pretty disappointed and upset.
That it got cancelled.
Yeah.
So was I.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But no, kudos. We take the mick a little bit, but kudos to Campbell. I think was a great effort. And kudos to Robbie, who battled 3 hours sleep to be on that boat, woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning to get on that boat to support. And kudos to me for paddling.
Yeah. Kudos to John.
Some paddler love. I should give kudos to myself. And Kalani. But yeah, it was a pretty fun day. And we'll come back to it later because I feel like took a bit of mental fortitude to, even get to 10.5 Ks, and it would have taken a whole bunch of more mental fortitude to get to the end if it had continued. So
Yes.
good work, Campbell.
All right. Well, I'm going to get straight into this today's topic with a study and a quote from a study. So there's a study available on the National Library of Medicine website, and it's been released in 2006, outlining, and I quote, "Exercise improves mental health by reducing anxiety, depression, and negative mood, as well as improving self-esteem and cognitive function. Exercise has also been found to alleviate symptoms such as low self-esteem and social withdrawal." And then it lists the benefits as improved sleep, increased interest in sex, better endurance, stress relief, improvement in mood, increased energy and stamina, reduced tiredness that can increase mental alertness, weight reduction, reduced cholesterol, and improved cardiovascular fitness. So a lot to unpack there.
Wowzers, that's a lot.
That was a lot.
It is a lot of stuff that are benefits from exercising, and I really think that we should. Well, I really think that it's a great topic for us to unpack today because it's something that's maybe a little bit underrated, I feel, but a lot more light is starting to become shed on it with how important it is for your actual mental health.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I know that, some days, well, if I was to rank these things, I'd probably say sleep is number one when it comes to my mood personally. If I get under 8 hours sleep and then don't exercise, I think that's a recipe for disaster. But I'd say sleep's top, but just under that when it comes to, making sure you're in a good mood, having a good day. I think exercise just falls under that. So if you can get a good combination of both, that's just me though, my personal. But that's how I think
I think the 3 pillars to fighting mental health that you should be doing regardless, because we understand a lot of people have different issues and not everything works for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But 3 key things that you should really incorporate into your mental health to make sure it's optimal is sleep, diet, and exercise. And if you can hit those 3 things, I feel like you're giving yourself the best chance to feel the best you can be naturally on that sort of path. Mm-hmm. Thoughts on that? Mini Huberman?
110%.
110.
If you're not exercising, you're not going to feel better, unfortunately. And also sleep is just also one of those things that everyone needs. It is I don't know the exact percentage, but it is a high percentage of the life we live on Earth is just sleep.
Yeah.
Which
is
it is
crazy
the most
to think
important
about
thing.
a bit.
If you're getting 3 to 4 hours a night, you're not mentally prepped for the next day, really.
Yeah. And there's a lot of growth and processing and compartmentalizing that happens while you sleep, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your body repairs itself every night while you're sleeping.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
But with it being something to combat sort of mental health issues, I've got another study here published by the BJM Sports Medicine, and it found that, and I quote, the analysis found that physical activity produced a median reduction in mental health issues from 42 to 60%. Psychotherapy and pharmacotherapy, so taking medication, produced a much smaller improvement between 22% and 37%. So they've found in recent studies that actually physical exercise every single day is more effective than anything else at improving your mental health and reducing issues amongst mental health. So we're not saying that the other stuff may not be important or key for you to have better mental health, but it's pretty clear that physical exercise is the most effective across a range of people.
I think with everything like that, you need a balance of everything. You need to get good sleep. You need to do exercise. Like, you can have one really good and one really bad, but you need both.
Yeah.
It's like people who take medication. Obviously, I don't really know the exact thing about medication, but lots of people who have depression take medication and they think that'll be the only way that they can feel better. But it's just one of those pillars like you were talking about. The medication will help you going, but then you need to exercise, you need to get sleep, you need to do this, you need to do that.
You think about just starting the day right with exercise in the morning is just getting one hard thing out of the way, and it makes all the other things that are just as hard feel easier. Mm-hmm. Like if you wake up, you go for a run, it makes then chores you had later in the day seem not as hard to do, and you just move through it easier. But there's also some other sort of benefits from it that are the reason behind this, like say endorphins.
Yep.
Mr. Neuroscience.
Basically, endorphins are one of the most important things when you exercise, and basically they're released when you exercise, and they are your well-being, your happy hormones, much like dopamine, but basically when they're released, they regulate everything in your body. So endorphins released, they make you feel happy, they make you feel more motivated, and
And serotonin?
Serotonin, that's also your happy hormone. That's also to do with exercise. So the main things when you exercise that are released is your endorphins, serotonin and dopamine. And endorphins are also, sorry to jump back to endorphins, but they're a natural painkiller. So I think they help you to regulate pain, and they give you that euphoric feeling when you're, let's say, run as high I did in the recent video.
Is that mental pain as well, or only physical pain?
Mainly physical, I'm pretty sure,
Experiences? You feel that way when you're running, Johnny?
I mean, I don't know if there's necessarily a tangible feel. Like when you're running, you're pretty focused, you're pretty locked in. well, this is from my perspective. I'm obviously not a professional runner, but the Strava king that I am. Yeah, when you're running, obviously, I guess the major thing is all you can think about is, well, most of what you can think about is your objective, how far you want to run, what pace you want to run. But afterwards, I guess, once you've come down from, I feel like there's a run that people talk about where you don't know it until you've almost finished your run, and and then all of a sudden, once you've gotten over the physical exhaustion of a run, you go like, this feeling sort of you've achieved something. I feel like, definitely self-worth. And I think it's interesting to look into self-worth and self-esteem. And what you were saying, I think accomplishing something like that, even just early in the morning especially. But a good run that challenges you and makes you, I guess, feel like you've achieved something early or late of the day, that kind of knocks away lots of thoughts and feelings. I used to do this thing on a Monday. I used to go to Kings Park and run about 8Ks, 9Ks every Monday. This was my first year out of school. Because obviously on the weekends, first years out of school, you're just...
beering up.
Yeah, you're having... Well, I don't know. There's a lot going on. You're trying to work out everything. And then Monday was always just evening, Kings Park. You're in nature, which is nice as well. And you just kind of expelled the demons in a way. But it's not necessarily there's a physical part of it, which is almost like you're sweating out basically all the
toxins,
rubbish you've consumed. But you're almost doing that with your brain as well. You're sweating all that rubbish out of the brain, all the negative thoughts, all the feelings of...
Well, when you're running, you're kind of unpacking all of what's going on, I feel.
It's a good
time to really think about stuff and clear your head.
Yeah, and it depends. You can go on a longer run and clear your head and think about lots of stuff, but... it's almost the fact that when you're running, you're not thinking about that stuff. You're almost putting that away into a part of your brain, and you're just thinking about your health, your running.
Yeah,
like
maybe. I don't know.
Refocus kind of feeling. Yeah.
Well, this week after the Rottnest swim, I went for 3 runs because I had a cortisone injection in my shoulder on the Monday, so
nice.
couldn't swim, and I hadn't run since last year, and I went for a run on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and rested on the Tuesday, Thursday to load myself into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like a self-experiment for today's episode because I kind of self-analyzed how I felt on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday as opposed to the Tuesday, Thursday and how much stuff I got done in the day. And I can honestly say that the days I ran, I felt better and I got more done throughout the day after the run.
Yeah. And there's something about those days where, going back to negative thoughts and stuff, I feel like for me, sometimes you can almost tangibly feel bad thoughts just dissolving away in your head on days where you've ran and you feel good about yourself. And those are the days where, something pops into your head. It doesn't stick there because, I don't know, you're feeling of self-worth or... I don't know. Something's going on in there. Maybe Fletch, you can enlighten us a bit more, but you can almost feel like those thoughts just being expelled, and you've got more positive thoughts. You're excited for what else is coming in the day. You're excited for what's going on in your life.
Well, Fletch has been doing a lot of running lately. I've been seeing some of the Strava posts.
Kind of motivated by the neuroscience of it all. I think mental health is a big thing, and even doing that run, I did a smaller run a few weeks ago, and because I've been researching runners high a lot, just because I find it so interesting in how that the endorphins and dopamine release can cause you to feel so much better. And I never really subjectively thought about a runner's high and feeling happy afterwards. But it is crazy. Like that run I did, I was dying. It was only 5Ks, but I was dying. And afterwards I felt so happy listening to music on the way home.
Yeah.
I love that. Bit of Olivia
Rodrigo. Love is embarrassing.
I was feeling so good about myself. I was so happy. And I'm like, oh my God, this runner's high is a real thing. And I didn't believe it, but I only thought it was during your runs.
Yeah, no,
but
I feel like it's
afterwards. Wow, it is insane. Like,
you did a half marathon recently as well?
Yeah,
just on your own.
Oh, with my friend Toby. Yeah, but
what was that the inspiration for that? You wanted to get that feeling of doing reaching a significant milestone. Just going out and reaching a half marathon on your own is pretty cool.
Or did you just see a David Goggins clip?
I always had a plan in my mind. I was going to do a half marathon. This is something I've been talking about for ages and ages. And I was like, do it eventually.
Just do it.
Do it eventually. And then, you know what? Toby was like, should we do a half marathon? I'm like, oh, sure. Did it and felt pretty good about myself.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing another one on Wednesday morning.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm lining up to do the Run for a Reason in May, but it almost makes you think, why the hell do you just pay to do a run for a reason when you can just go and do a run yourself? I mean, that's, yeah. I don't know. Are you gonna make it a weekly occurrence or a bi-weekly occurrence?
Maybe every 3 weeks or so.
Far out.
The mental challenge of completing that. While you're running, you're saying, I want to stop the whole time.
And that's why I love it so much. Once you have those moments, that last 15, 18 Ks in, you're like, this is the worst thing ever. Why have I done this? But I guess I also do think of David Goggins and the willpower part. I'm not sure if anyone's who's listening to this have seen it, but I did a TikTok and Instagram reel about it. And basically, when you do things you don't want to do, this part of your brain called the anterior midcingulate cortex actually grows. And this is the part of your brain that's responsible for willpower and discipline. So when you do things you don't want to do, it grows. So let's say I didn't want to do this half marathon, but I did it. And I wanted to do it, but it's also the mental challenge. I wanted to stop. I so wanted to stop.
And pushing through that.
Yeah, pushing through that. All I could think of was David Goggins' anterior midcingulate cortex. And that willpower grows every single time, like I said. But as soon as you get comfortable, so let's say half marathon.
It doesn't have the same effect.
Pretty easy. Like, I'm enjoying this. It doesn't grow. It stays the same. It doesn't shrink, it grows. Yeah.
That's a very clear link. Like, we're talking about the link between mental and physical health, and some people might question it, but that's quite literally what we're looking for is your body wants to stop, but your brain benefits from continuing. And
well, another part of exercise that has a benefit on mental health, I would say, would be social sport. Like
100%.
Team sports, team footy.
Or running in a group as well. That's become a very run club.
Bit of a trend lately.
Mm-hmm.
Run club, see, I almost like, with run club, it's almost too difficult to even just talk to your friends because you're always overtaking people. But running in, I guess, a tight group of 2, 3, 4 people, or like preparing for a half marathon. I've done I did last year with a couple of mates. That's sort of common. You're trying to reach a common goal and you're pushing each other. Like, obviously, I think I do my best running sometimes when I'm with someone else, and obviously you're pushing each other. And humans are competitive beings. I feel like they have to work harder when someone's eyes are on them. And I guess using that sort of, and Strava's a weird one as well. Like, all social media, people can feel jealous and look at it and feel rubbish about themselves because they can't run as far or run as fast. But there's also that almost feeling of accountability where, you know, if you're going to say, I'm going to prepare for a half marathon or something, people can look at your Strava and see how you're doing. And so you almost want to push harder for that sense. I don't know if that's a positive or negative thing with social media. But.
Well, a study found from the Victoria University in Melbourne was, and I quote, participation in sport, community and elite, is related to better mental health, including improved psychological well-being, for example, higher self-esteem and life satisfaction, and lower psychological ill-being, for example, reduced levels of depression, anxiety, and stress.
There you go.
So community sport, playing with other people, also helps with your anxiety and stress and just helps your well-being, because just being around people and being healthy and active with them really, and just a sense of being part of something for your mental health, especially people if they're feeling a bit isolated, a bit alone, and then they go and do a social team sport with all their friends. They have a bit of fun. They maybe go for a drink afterwards. It's really, really important for people, especially a lot of young people that might not necessarily have like a community from a full-time job, like with people around the office and stuff that are a bit more isolated.
And I think with that, the reason you do social sport is to meet people. And I know a few people, including myself with the run clubs, I was like, oh, I don't really want to, they want to talk to me? Like, why? But they do. That's why people go to these things. And I think it's an important thing for people to understand is you do social sport to meet people. So if you're ever concerned or worried about being by yourself at a social sporting, there's going to be people there. They want to socialize with you.
Yeah, when it comes to dopamine and serotonin, that sort of stuff, that feeling of camaraderie, and what chemical would that be most aligned with, do you think?
Dopamine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the process behind dopamine and exercise?
So pretty much it's like many other things. As soon as you exercise, it's just released into your body. It's always there, but it's released once you exercise, and this makes you feel happy. And I think a recent kind of stigma about it is just like the happy, when you said, oh, everyone used to think dopamine is just happy, but it's everything. It's motivation, it's well-being, it's mental health. It's the most important hormone. And yeah, Andrew Huberman loves it for that reason.
Exercise is perfect to regulate it.
Oh, 100%. There's so many things. Obviously, there's a lot of fake dopamine.
Like Fortnite.
Like Fortnite, porn, social media, cocaine. But yeah, finding those natural dopamine hits is what's the most important, because the spike when you do all those, I think I mentioned it in the last podcast, the spike when you do cocaine is through the roof, like same as an ice bath, and probably not as much as exercise. I don't know the exact kind of value, but that initial spike is huge. And when you have cocaine, this drops way below your baseline. And for anyone who doesn't know, if it goes way below your baseline, it is going to cause you to
feel like shit,
feel bad. And that's why I think also with when you drink alcohol, you normally just feel hungover for the first day, but you don't mentally feel too bad. But the 2 to 3 days after, you normally feel worse, and you don't realize that it's related to the alcohol.
Interesting.
Oh. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's pretty crazy.
Because last year, Gianni and I would run on a Monday morning and then go for a dip at the beach afterwards in like cold water. And the rush of going for a long run where you're hating it the whole time, but you have the sense of accomplishment when you finish it, and then going in the nice cold water and the nice hot sun.
Something about it.
And then you hop in the car or driving to coffee, and I feel like the head rush, and I'm buzzing, I'm feeling great. I'm not feeling depressed, upset, sad, or anything like that. All those feelings are sort of flushed out from the exercise and then the dip in the ocean.
You never feel bad after exercise unless you're mentally bad.
Unless you've performed badly.
Yeah, I think if you're doing a sport, I think that's where you can cross the line with elite sport, because at some points elite sport becomes performance based and not so much
too much pressure.
Yeah, and pressure, and as you say, you can perform badly, and all of a sudden I feel like that dopamine rush is gone, because you might have run your guts out, but if you lose the game of football
another one that I found really interesting is the relationship between healing traumatic brain injuries and endurance exercise. So I've got another study here from the International Review of Neurobiology in 2013. And so basically, traumatic experience causes peripheral nerve damage, which often leads to severe chronic disability, having a negative impact in health-related quality of life. So the neuropathic pain as a result of this is a frequent adverse consequence of traumatic peripheral nervous system injury. So basically, traumatic upbringings, if you have traumatic experiences when you're younger, can have damage on your peripheral nervous system.
Yeah.
And then physical exercise by means of treadmill or wheel running is neuroprotective and neuroregenerative. Research conducted on rodents demonstrates that endurance exercise modulates several of the cellular and molecular responses to peripheral nerve injury, and by doing so, it stimulates nerve regeneration and functional recovery following experimental peripheral nervous system injury. So basically, I know that's a lot to unpack and a lot to listen to at once, but the takeaway from this is that exercising, and particularly endurance exercise, will help with the neuroplasticity, reshaping the neuroplasticity of your brain and neurogeneration. Is that the word? Neurogenesis, sorry. So traumatic experiences damages the peripheral nervous system and your neuroplasticity of your brain, and endurance exercise is a form of therapy to improve that.
Yeah, so basically when you exercise, when you're doing long runs, there's something called BDNF, which is your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is produced when you run, or it's stimulated the production of this when you're running, and this helps to grow new neurons, and this helps to specifically help you rewire your hippocampus, which is your memory center. So if you're exercising specifically long runs like these guys have done, this helps to rewire your memories and possibly create new ones.
Well, I experienced some endurance exercise recently. Wasn't very fun though. Maybe my cortex has grown.
Well, that's an interesting study as well, because you got you didn't end up obviously getting the rush of finishing the roto swim, but still when you got into the boat after you'd
and threw up everywhere,
vomited, was there still a feeling of, what were your thoughts? What were you going through? Was there still a feeling of achievement, the fact that you'd done so well? And
no, not really. I didn't feel like I'd done very well.
Okay.
To be pulled out and not finish it was I was pretty gutted because I'd been training quite a bit for it.
So that's an interesting one, because we've been talking about, that's coming back to that.
It was a very
performance-based
weird
thing.
feeling because I'd been exercising for 4.5 hours, like swimming in pretty horrible water conditions, but there was no sense of achievement. So I was in a bit of a limbo where I had all the dopamine and the endorphins and serotonin released, but then on the psychological side of things, I had the lack of sense of achievement.
Yeah.
So I was kind of mellowed out. I didn't really know how to feel. The best way I could describe that day was I didn't know how to feel about it. Because I felt good that I'd exercised for so long, but I didn't feel good about not finishing it, but it was out of my control because the race was cancelled.
Yeah.
I think as an outsider, what you did is pretty insane. I think raising all that money. How much?
That was awesome. We ended up raising $8,100 for Crohn's and Colitis Australia, which is wicked for a good cause. Even though the day was cancelled, it was about something much bigger. And
I think there's
very happy with that.
A lot of positives out of an event that unfortunately got cancelled. You made it. I think that's the most important thing.
I feel bad for Gianni, who was paddling as well. It looked horrible paddling in the ocean.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and hopefully Rottnest Channel Swim doesn't cancel us for this, but I think the event should have been cancelled from the start.
Yeah.
I think the day was such an anomaly when you look at the days around it that it was obvious it was going to be just an absolute mess. I think because there was a hurricane up north or something like that, and so obviously we always there's quite often hurricanes up north, and we usually, it's been seen in the past, you catch some pretty hairy days down here. You just get like a tail of a hurricane. But knowing that, having that information, and seeing like everyone looking at the forecast for weeks out, almost, were like, wow, the wind's like this, and then for one day it spikes. So you know that it's not just a regular weather pattern. There's something abnormal going on. So there's my thoughts, that they should have canned it at the start. But then again, having that experience in the worst case scenario, I guess, was good, especially for you. That was your first time doing the roto swim.
It was pretty awful, to be honest.
But it was pretty awful. Lots of people put a lot of effort into it.
Lots of people got hypothermia.
The reason why they justified pulling everyone out
was they ran out of resources.
They ran out of medical resources to help, which at that point,
because so many people were pulling out.
Yeah. And it was crazy, and people were pulling kayaks out of the water because it was too difficult to kayak and manage that. And it was like a war zone. It was, what were we saying, reverse?
It was like a reverse D-Day instead of Private Ryan
and
going off the beach with all the boats and kayaks everywhere.
Yeah.
Did they ever justify why they started it in the first place?
I don't know. I think
money.
What's the No, that's
there's a lot of money involved.
I think that's a conspiracy.
We're not hating. I'm going to do it next year, but
I think that's a conspiracy. But maybe
guaranteed entry for next year is good.
I think but I think that's a conspiracy that they don't have to refund people if they start the event. Maybe. I don't know. We don't want to get into.
But while I was swimming, a lot of thoughts about I hate this so much. I don't want to keep doing this. I want to opt out. Like the first 2Ks I swam, my goggles were too tight on my head, and the constant hitting waves on my head because we were swimming into the waves had the worst headache ever until I think it was Kalani loosened my goggles, and then I felt a lot better. But the seasickness of the constant up and down, and every now and then you'd stop and you wouldn't even be able to see 2 meters forward or backwards or around you because the waves were so high, was really awful. But at the same time, when I was doing it, I was thinking, well, what if I can finish this? If I can finish this in these conditions, the sense of achievement will be unbridled. Because as much as you're hating doing it and constantly wanting to quit, it's resisting that will to quit and fighting that urge and pushing through it that I feel is where a lot of the benefits come for your mental health when it comes to exercise like that.
Yeah, and realistically, you're never going to get out of the water unless they pulled you out. Like you would have probably got there. It would have taken us 10 hours, but
probably would have yacked in the water. And
yeah.
If I didn't get hypothermia, I would have been fine, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
My arms were feeling pretty good. I wasn't gassed or anything like that. I just felt so seasick from the waves. Like I took a ondansetron, which is prescription grade anti-motion sickness pill before, and just didn't do anything. It was pretty messed up, but
yeah. And the whole day is such a great event as well, and it's something that people come from all over the world even to do. And when you get down to the beach, obviously the conditions were pretty ominous. It was pretty foreboding.
In the cold wind as well.
Get to see Campbell's getting animal fat rubbed all over him, getting lanolin rubbed over him by Campbell's mum.
But then I was too cold, so I put a jumper on.
Yeah.
And then I took the jumper off, it took all the fat off my arms with it.
It's just chaotic. But when you get down there and you look out and all the boats are out there with their port and starboard lights, it's actually quite beautiful. And you're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Unreal.
But yeah, Campbell set off at 6, so we got there at 5:15.
Yeah, I was up at 3 a.m. for it.
Had to meet him.
Not feeling good about it.
Had to meet him within the first 100, 200 metres.
Yeah.
And so all the kayakers, and then we had to find the boat. But yeah, it was a I still think it was a pretty memorable day, and probably even more memorable than not for you, but for me, more memorable than if you'd completed it maybe.
I think it's one of those things as well. It's just,
yeah.
You're always going to remember the time that you got 10 Ks in and you got pulled out.
Well, I got to do it next year. I've kind of like the job's not done.
More time to train, more time to raise money, I think.
So Fletch, in the start of the episode, I talked about some of the benefits, which included reducing stress. So is there a mechanism behind that when it comes to exercising?
When you exercise, it modulates the HPA axis, and this is involved in your body's stress response. So you can imagine if you're exercising and you're helping to alleviate this, there is less stress hormones in your body, so less cortisol, and this helps to alleviate the symptoms of stress and anxiety.
Oh.
And also there is an increase in the level of endocannabinoids, not associated with cannabis or anything, but these also help to make your body feel... Endocannabinoids, and these help to reduce...
Definitely related to cannabis.
What's an endocannabinoid?
It's an endogenous molecule. It's just a molecule. Yeah, so endocannabinoids are just a molecule that's found in your body and brain, and these help to make you feel calm and also help to reduce stress and anxiety in your body. And these are released once you exercise.
And long-term effects when it comes to more...
preventative stuff.
Yeah, preventative mental health disorders and stuff like that.
This is really interesting. So when you exercise, there's neuroprotection and there's also neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. And when you age, basically your brain just naturally degrades. And when you exercise, the neurodegenerative effects actually are reduced. So the main kind of neurodegenerative diseases, sorry, it's a mouthful to say.
No, I'm following you.
Is Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And these are probably the most infamous diseases.
When you're older that you get scared of, you don't want to be getting.
Yeah, these are horrible. And unfortunately, there's no real cure for these at the moment. And to be able to protect your body and your brain for these is obviously one of the most important things, because I've had people who've had Parkinson's in my family, and it's one of the most horrible things. So you really want to try improve your health. So when you exercise, you reduce the risks of getting these diseases.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, which I think if you're not exercising, this is one of the things that would hopefully...
Well, I did see, I know it was a clip, so the integrity of it could be questioned, but they were referencing a study where the amount of skeletal muscle mass on your body is in direct correlation to preventing all-cause mortality as you age. So basically what that means is as you get older, the more you exercise and the more muscle mass you maintain on your body has a direct correlation with all-cause mortality, meaning deaths from anything. So correlation doesn't imply causation, but this is the most linear, direct one that you have compared to anything, whether it's sleeping, diet, all of those things. Apparently the number one indicator of preventing all-cause mortality on average is people that maintain skeletal muscle mass on their body, which I think is really fascinating stuff.
Basically, the muscular health of individuals who exercise every day is in perfect shape when you're 80. Even though it might not look like it, your fibers in your leg look perfectly fine.
So what you're saying is when Gianni's 90, he's still going to be hitting legs in the gym.
Probably more than I do now. Yeah.
So I think the takeaways from today are, yes, there's a bunch of things that you need to do to get you in mental shape, when it comes to mental health. However, if you're not exercising, it's a huge mistake because it is one of the most effective, if not the most effective way of combating mental health or just improving overall. Yes, some people, it's different for everyone, and whether you need more help, you need a community around you, you might need medication. If you're not trying physical exercise, you really should be giving it a go because it is a no-brainer, no pun intended, when it comes to improving your brain's mental health and your body's physical health.
I think it's one of those pillars, like we said before, when you exercise, everything's improved. Your motivation's better, your well-being's going to be better, and also your sleep, so your sleep cycle. So, yeah, get exercising, I reckon.
I'm going to go for a run tomorrow.
But just to remember, everyone, that everything you need to do, more than just one thing to improve your mental health.
But make sure exercise is in there.
Diversity.
Well, this has been a different type of episode.
Very different.
Neurotify. An informative episode. Neurotify, Fletcher, Jubin, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.